Northern Europe in the late 17th century was a cauldron of ambition and rivalry. At the heart of this struggle was the Great Northern War, a sprawling conflict that engulfed the Baltic region. Sweden, under King Charles XII, faced a coalition of enemies eager to curb its ambitions. Russia, led by Tsar Peter the Great, saw an opportunity to expand its territory and influence. The Great Northern War, ignited in 1700, was a complex web of alliances and betrayals. Denmark, Norway, Saxony and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth initially united against Sweden. Sweden, however, possessed a secret weapon, its charismatic and militarily gifted king, Charles XII. Only 18 years old when the war began, Charles led his armies to a series of stunning victories. His victories earned him the moniker, the Lion of the North. However, Charles's string of triumphs would be put to the ultimate test near the fortress town of Poltava. Nestled amidst the fertile plains of Ukraine, Poltava held a strategic position of great importance. For Charles XII and his Swedish army, Poltava represented a gateway to the heartland of Russia. Capturing the town would provide them with much-needed supplies and a secure base of operations. For Peter the Great, Poltava was a vital line in the sand, a bulwark protecting the heart of his realm. Losing the town to the Swedes would be a devastating blow, both strategically and symbolically. The town itself was a formidable obstacle. Recognizing Poltava's strategic value, Peter the Great had ordered the construction of a network of earthworks, trenches and redoubts around the town. The stage was set for a titanic clash, a battle that would determine the fate of empires. As the spring of 1709 thawed the frozen Ukrainian landscape, both the Swedish and Russian armies converged on Poltava. Charles XII, his forces depleted by years of campaigning and a harsh winter, desperately needed a decisive victory. He had gambled on a daring march across Ukraine, seeking to link up with Cossack allies. However, the Cossack reinforcements proved unreliable, and the Swedish army arrived on the outskirts of Poltava, weakened and undersupplied. Peter the Great, meanwhile, had used the preceding months to bolster his forces. He'd gathered a large and well-equipped army, eager to defend their homeland. Peter had implemented reforms to modernize his army, adopting Western European tactics and training methods. The two armies, poised for battle, presented a stark contrast. The Swedes, though outnumbered, were renowned for their discipline and innovative battlefield tactics. The morning of June 28, 1709, dawned bright and clear over the Ukrainian steppe. Charles XII, his confidence undimmed despite the odds, launched a daring assault on the Russian lines. The Swedish attack, spearheaded by their renowned infantry, was fierce and determined. The Russians, however, stood firm. Their artillery, skillfully deployed by Peter the Great, rained down a deadly barrage of fire upon the advancing Swedish ranks. The Russian infantry met the Swedish onslaught with disciplined volleys of musket fire. The battle raged for hours, a swirling melee of smoke, fire and steel. As the morning wore on, the tide of the battle began to turn. Russian reinforcements arrived, bolstering their lines and repelling the Swedish attacks with heavy casualties. Charles XII, wounded in the foot, struggled to maintain control of his forces. At the heart of the Russian victory at Poltava stood Peter the Great, his imposing figure a beacon of inspiration for his troops. Peter played an active and courageous role in the fighting. He exposed himself to enemy fire, rallying his troops and directing their movements with a cool head and unwavering determination. His personal courage and leadership proved crucial in maintaining Russian morale. Peter's impact on the battle extended far beyond his personal bravery. He had spent years reforming the Russian army, transforming it from a medieval force into a modern fighting machine. He had implemented Western European training methods, standardized equipment, and improved discipline. The fruits of his labors were evident at Poltava, where the Russian army displayed a level of discipline and firepower that surprised their Swedish adversaries. Peter's strategic vision and tactical acumen were instrumental in securing the Russian victory at Poltava. Charles XII, the Lion of the North, had led his Swedish armies to a string of stunning victories in the early years of the Great Northern War. However, at Poltava, his luck finally ran out. Charles, wounded and his army depleted, had gambled on a daring but ultimately reckless attack against a larger and well-prepared Russian force. His decision to engage the Russians at Poltava rather than withdraw and regroup proved to be a fatal miscalculation. Charles's leadership, though characterized by courage and determination, was also marked by recklessness and a refusal to acknowledge the realities of the situation. At Poltava, this overconfidence proved to be his undoing. The defeat at Poltava marked a turning point in Charles XII's career and in the fortunes of the Swedish Empire. The once invincible Lion of the North was forced to flee across the Ottoman border, seeking refuge in the court of the Sultan. The Swedish army decimated at Poltava was no longer the formidable force it once was. The Battle of Poltava, fought on a hot summer day in 1709, sent shockwaves across Europe. It marked a decisive turning point in the Great Northern War, shattering the myth of Swedish invincibility and altering the balance of power in Eastern Europe. The victory propelled Russia onto the European stage as a major power, ending Sweden's period of dominance in the Baltic region. For Sweden, Poltava marked the beginning of its decline as a great power. The Swedish Empire, weakened by years of war and the loss of its most capable army, was gradually dismantled by its enemies. For Russia, Poltava was a triumphant emergence. The victory secured Peter the Great's reforms, proving the effectiveness of his modernized army and his vision for a powerful Russian state. It ushered in a new era of Russian expansionism, as Peter consolidated his gains in the Baltic and projected Russian power further into Europe. The echoes of Poltava reverberated through the halls of European history, marking the end of an era and the beginning of a new world order.